Hi, this is Jim Musser with Upstream Ministries, and this is episode 62 on Views from Downstream. And we are talking this week about some practical solutions to the assumptions that church leaders and parents often make about spiritually raising kids. And one of the things that I talked on Monday was the fact that we really have to make it our focus as a church to disciple adults, that is following what Jesus said in Matthew 28, that we're to go and make disciples. And that's what we are called to do. And discipleship, as I said, is not merely proclaiming a sermon and doing that week in and week out. There has to be more to it than that. And instead of like a extra discipleship class or something like that, that it seems to me that the initial approach would be to start on Sunday morning with the worship service. And I know that unfortunately buildings have been built with the idea of an audience. We have a stage, and it's just basically says, okay, you're to sit here and passively listen and not really participate. But I think we have to find ways to overcome that, because I think the key to discipleship, engage congregants in what we're talking about from the pulpit. And so we just have to come up with creative ways. And one of the things that I think of is that we have a shorter sermon and then we have a discussion. Now, you can do it multiple ways, and one way would be to have the pastor take questions, pose questions to the congregants, and then they discuss them with each other. Or it's just almost a question and answer type of thing. But we need to get these people engaged. Just sitting there and passive listening is not real effective. And so that's one thing to do. And I know that our auditoriums are set up typically with chairs facing the stage. If you have freestanding chairs, it's very easy then to circle those up if you want to. And that's what I would encourage, to get discussion going between the members and talking to each other and encouraging each other, praying with one another. We have just made a mistake of making our worship services typically being the worship band for 20, 30 minutes, then the sermon for 20 to 30 minutes, and then we're done. And maybe with announcements thrown in and some brief prayer. And so that just doesn't get people involved. And if we want to engage people, we're going to have to make time for that. And so I would encourage you to think about how can we change up the Sunday morning service where we can engage people. Now, the reality is people don't like change, and there will be pushback and probably some resistance, and some people will probably leave because really what they want is to come in there and passively listen and nothing be asked of them, and then they can leave. And in many ways, if those people need to go, they need to go. You don't want to just let them dictate what you do, but you need to just decide on a direction and stick with it. And if people leave, they leave. But the ones who stay, you'll know that you have them and that they want to be involved. But there's just got to be more engagement. So I would just really encourage you and your leadership team to really examine creative ways that we can get all the congregation involved, with the goal again to raising up disciples, so that in this case adults, that so they can disciple their own kids. And I'm going to leave it there, and we'll come back on Friday and talk some more about how we can do that. And until then, we'll see you soon.